19, well, I'm not exactly sure. When did you go to Kaiser? Was that in 1980s or?
No, no, we went to Kaiser in 55 or 6,
Oh,
I think,
okay.
quite early.
Okay. So you were the Vice President of Public Relations and Advertising.
Hmm.
And in 1981, there was a crisis resulting from the ABC magazine show 2020, claiming that the corporation, Kaiser Corporation, intentionally sold some unsafe house wiring. So, instantly put you in crisis mode. How did you handle that? Did the CEO seek you out and ask for your counsel? And how did you respond to this, the quote, trial by television?
Well, that's ultimately what the exercise came to be known as, trial by television, and I'm happy to say that we gave it that name because that was the issue that we wanted to get exposed as we went through this entire exercise, and that was the issue of fairness. That is the ability of television to put you on trial and try you with and be the prosecutor, the defense attorney, the judge, and the jury without you having a chance to say anything except what they choose for you to say. So it was a tremendous amount of fun as we went through it. Seemed to last a long time. But what was the CEO's role? The show played on a Tuesday or a Thursday night about 10 o'clock. The CEO I was working for, one of the world's great CEOs, I think, and a great fellow, Cornell Meyer, had a habit of coming in to work every morning about 5:30, which meant that all the people who reported to him got to work about that time. So I was in my office early that next morning, still dark. Office is on a beautiful building looking out over Lake Merritt on one side and Oakland and out to the San Francisco Bay on the other. Sun's just coming up. It's a beautiful morning developing in Cornell. I'm in my office. Cornell walks into my office and says, "Did you see that show last night?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "We're not going to stand for that. What are you going to do about it?" And so from there, we stepped back and developed a pretty aggressive program which upset most of the people in our industry at the time. The theory at that point was that you don't pick fights with people who buy their ink by the barrel. We didn't care about that. Cornell's concern basically was how our own people would react to these charges that we were doing this heinous sort of thing, putting a product on the market that was unsafe and from which people died. And his essential concern was the concerns of our own people. Everybody else in the industry made that product. This is Kaiser Aluminum, Alcoa, the biggest in the industry, made it. Reynolds made it. All the other big players made it, and nobody wanted any attention drawn to the adequacy of this particular product. And all of the industry advised Cornell quite loudly to let alone. Don't do anything about it. And Cornell's reaction was, no, we're not. We're going to take it on. So we took it on, and we took it on about as aggressively as you can do. We brought suit against ABC under the fairness doctrine. Cornell and I, the two of us, undertook a speaking program across the country, going to practically any venue that would entertain us, and that ranged from the Economic Club of Chicago to the Kiwanis Club of Virginia. But over the course of that year, we must have done 100, 125 speeches between the two of us, taking the message out directly. Worked very aggressively with our members in the House and the Senate, again on this issue of the fairness doctrine, insisting that ABC give us unedited response time in prime time, in the same time span same time period in which they had made these accusations against us. That had never happened before, and of course no network was going to relinquish unedited response time. We made enough noise, and I guess did our job effectively enough that ultimately ABC did give us unedited response time in primetime TV. Ted Koppel handled the show. We put the manager of that division up to deliver our response unedited on primetime TV, and ABC insisted though that Geraldo Rivera was the reporter on that piece. they insisted that Geraldo be able to come on and challenge our person, the fellow's name was Steve, on the show. And so we prepared Steve. It's been a lot of time, as people do, walking through Q&A and role-playing as he got ready for that confrontation with Geraldo, but Koppel handled the interview and did it just beautifully. And the result was that after the show played, we did some polling. But in any event, the reaction seemed to be that we had prevailed, that we'd won in that argument. So we got the unedited response time at primetime TV, and I'm happy to say that ABC continued that show for at least a year, offering, we were off it, of course, but offering the opportunity to others who felt that they had been unfairly tried on television to come on and give their point of view. And as I say, we found out something very interesting, I think. We made this a whole issue, I started to say made it spin. I didn't want to say that. We based this issue on the issue of fairness, that it just wasn't fair that power that television has can come in and accuse you of something and you not have the chance to present your own defense other than through them. Just wasn't fair at all. So it was the issue of fairness. And it turns out that the issue of fairness basically is a pretty popular idea with the American public. And ABC saw that because they were getting a lot of calls and letters and pressure generally about this whole issue of trial by television. So ultimately, we got the time, and we had a lot of fun doing it, and it turned out to be sort of a case study at the time.
When your corporation or your organization is faced with a false claim or an accusation that's inaccurate, what can that PR person, that spokesperson, whatever they may be called, do to ensure that they speak up to the media? I mean, how do you do that?
Well, all of that depends on how that particular public relations person is seen by the management with whom he's working, whether or not he's seen as strong or weak, whether or not he's seen as someone who has good judgment or doesn't, and whether or not he's seen as somebody who can get done what he says he'll get done, or can't. Most of that is a result of the connect between the chief communications officer, the chief public relations officer, and the CEO. Not all of my peers feel that way, but one of the reasons I feel that it's so very, very important that the chief communications officer report to the CEO, direct line, is that you never let an incorrect record stand. Then if you've been wronged, you take it on. I think the quote was Justice Holmes, that the first defense of an innocent man unjustly accused is righteous indignation. And I think if you've been unjustly accused, you ought to be righteously indignant and take it on. That's not a view that is universally held, and for good reason. You run a great deal of risks when you take these sorts of things on. And you have to be willing to go all the way to the mat on them. And many companies just don't want the hassle for that, in my opinion. The most important asset a corporation has is its reputation. And I think a corporation needs to do everything it possibly can to protect its reputation. I think you stand up and you defend yourself.